Hi, welcome to Satsang. Helen will start in a few minutes. Lovely to see new faces. Just a bit of housekeeping. Most of you will know, but for those that are new, please help yourself to drinks after Satsang. 80p in the money. Any profit goes to the home. We give to the home. The toilets are just through there and around the corner. When we leave tonight, please leave quietly because it is a residential building. And can I ask that we stay on topic after Satsang, because I think a lot of us, most of us, will get into a very deep place, and it's good to continue that for as long as we can while we're together. Remember, it is recorded, it's going on YouTube, so if you do come up and ask a question, don't give any personal details. For those online, just remember, if you are typing in the chat box, not to give any personal details unless you want to. Can I please ask that all phones are on silent, not on vibrate? Because it does disturb if the phones go off at all while we're in Satsang. Helen will give a talk, and then afterwards you're free to ask questions in the room. For those online, if you do have a question, please email it to evolutionofspirit@gmail.com. We do have a Satsang tomorrow lunchtime, so if you do have a question for then, it's by 9:30 tomorrow morning, UK time. Normally it's by 5:30 on the evening of Satsang. We also have the Satsang Intensive this Sunday. If anyone wants to join that hasn't, there are a couple of places left. Please bear in mind, if you haven't played your balance, you're not guaranteed your place. But you should be okay this time, but it's best to be careful. Helen does do one-to-one sessions that are very popular. If you want to book one, have a look on the website, www.helenhamilton.org, or email to the email address I've given. They are very, very successful, popular things. I think we've all had times where we need that help. All of Helen's books are available in the shop. They're available online. All the details are on the website again. She does have a new book that is just come out. For those that weren't here last week, we have got copies of the new book here. I think that's it. There's a lot of events. Everything is on the website. Any details you need to know, but don't hesitate to ask. And if you have any questions about events and things after Satsang, just come and see me. Okay.
Namaste. And welcome to Satsang. Very well done, Ian. So tonight I wanted to do a little something a little different, hopefully, to show, you know, a deeper aspect of ourselves than perhaps we're used to getting in touch with. And the truth is that we are so much more than what we see, that we are so much more than we can imagine or conceive of within ourselves. Our natural being sometimes has gone unexplored, our real being undiscovered, until we end up in a place like this. And usually when we've had enough of our mind, you know, usually when we've had enough of suffering, usually when we've had enough painful experiences. Just checking you can hear okay. And so we end up in satsang really to try to find out if there's a different way to live our life, because, you know, most of us have got to this place where only listening to our thoughts about ourselves and the world and our relationships and everything else that we encounter has become quite painful, or very painful. And it may not even be obvious that there is a different way to function, to live, a different place, unexplored, a deeper aspect of our being that is available to us. So we're going to do an investigation tonight into what that is, and directly discover that deeper aspect of ourself that is independent of our body and mind. It can use our body and mind. It is our real self. It's what we mean when we say I, but we haven't perhaps fully investigated what that I totally is. And it's worth doing this, following along and discovering, and doing this again and again, every time we begin to listen to our thoughts again about what we are, every time we begin to imagine that we have limitations, every time that we begin to feel that we're just a someone working towards something, or perhaps if your experience is like mine was, that just never quite arriving anywhere. And even worse, perhaps things are going backwards, you know, less peace, less joy, less happiness. So it serves us to really directly experience what we are beyond our mind, and to come to a direct recognition, because only that direct recognition is going to change you. Only that seeing beyond words, an actual recognition that can happen inside yourself tonight, here, that I'm so much more than I see, and that I'm so much more than I've ever understood about myself. That will change fundamentally how you look at everything. It will begin to undercut all of your thinkingness about everything, especially about yourself. Most of our thinking is turned in on ourselves in a self-judgmental, self-critical way. And most of us are so caught in this massive self-defeating, self-blaming, self-negating thought that we couldn't even logically work something out. You know, my mind was so noisy that I couldn't sit and think my way through something if I needed to. It just wouldn't stop. And so there's nothing wrong with thinking, but when it's running out of control, just the on switch, the off switch is broken, the on switch is all there is, then it's time to find something deeper inside ourselves. So I'd like to do this exercise tonight, and I'd like you all to stay with me if you can. What does that mean? Don't close your eyes and go off into a nice state, because that's one of mind's subtle ways of avoiding listening to the fact. You can do that afterwards, I promise, but for the next 10 or 15 minutes, try and stay with me. Because there are certain myths about this process, and I want to bust through those tonight, that it's difficult to find out what you really are, that it takes a long time, that only a few people can do it, that we can't really live in peace and joy all the time, And if you fall asleep or go into a nice deep meditation, that's great, but you're not going to experience what I want to show you. You're not going to experience that real being that's waiting to be discovered. So it's best done with your eyes open. So just as you're sitting here, just want you to come, just to notice the space in the room. Really simple thing. All of us come into a room like this, whichever room you're sitting in, if you're watching online, automatically our attention goes to the objects, the people in the room. We start looking, do I recognize this person? Have I met them before? The room's laid out differently to it was last time. On and on these things go. I'd just like you to notice the space, the empty space in the room. Simple thing. And sometimes perhaps too simple, Our mind will say, well, this isn't going to solve my problems, but just bear with me for a few minutes. And just noticing the empty space. And then noticing that you're not looking at that empty space with your eyes. You can't see the space because it's invisible with your eyes. Yet you intuitively know it's there. You can't grasp empty space, can you, with your hands? You can't smell it. It doesn't smell like anything. Doesn't have any shape at all, and yet we're all absolutely certain that there's empty space in this room. And the more you keep your attention on that empty space, the more you might begin to feel your body relaxing, and maybe your mind slowing down. This is where I stay with me, eyes open. So you didn't recognize the space with your eyes. You can see through the space to the objects behind it, but are you looking at it with your eyes? How are you perceiving this empty space? It's something we do every day. We look right through this empty space. How do we know it's there? Are you using any of your senses to recognize this? Are you using your mind to think about this? It's not really, you just intuitively know. You didn't think about the space. It's here. It's obvious, isn't it? So obvious that perhaps we've never, somebody's squinting at the back there, thinking it through. Perhaps we've never even stopped to acknowledge how we recognize empty space. Such a simple thing. So there is already a deeper aspect of you functioning all the time than your mind and body. Already. Constantly and instantly, you know about this space that is intangible. One of the huge myths is that it's really hard to recognize your formless self, yet you've just done it instantaneously like that. You just bypassed your mind and your senses and recognized that which has no shape. Just like that. And the longer you keep your attention on that which has no shape or form, the more you'll find it begins to relax your body, it begins to relax your mind. You come to a place quite quickly where it's really hard to think about anything. And now, just the contrast, I'd like you to pick out one object in the room and look at that one object and really zoom in on it, really just look at it, think about it, engage your mind, and recognize how different your body feels when you start to look at an object again, a someone or a something. And then just effortlessly shift your focus back to the empty space. Easy peasy. It didn't take us 25 years of meditation, did it, to perceive the empty space? It took me 25 years to realize I could just perceive empty space, but that's another story for another night. So naturally, you are effortlessly able to perceive forms with your eyes, to feel them with your hands. You can smell things with your sense, taste. And effortlessly, it's a shift of focus to perceive that which has no shape, no form, no colour, nothing tangible at all about it. Just a shift of focus. Notice the empty space. There it is. Our eyes are moving around, my eyes are moving around, but I can't see it. But I know it. It's before the mind, isn't it? Mind may think about it afterwards. Well, am I really seeing? How am I? Mind goes into a long debate about it. Now, if you indulge me a little bit more, I'll take it a little step further, if you're up for it. The longer you keep your attention on the empty space in the room, the more you begin to notice that the objects in the room become a little bit more dreamlike. They take on a different quality. Not quite so real, not quite so crowded, not quite so present. The more we focus on the empty space, the formlessness, the less real the forms seem to be. They just seem to be here and just kind of happening by themselves. The more we focus on the forms with our senses and our minds, the less real the empty space appears to be. In fact, we never notice it. So it's just a shift of focus. A shift of focus. It's not a doing, it's a seeing. And naturally, you already have the ability to perceive both ways. You're not limited to your mind and body. You're looking through your mind and body at certain objects. Effortlessly, you shift to just being aware of this vastness that all of this is appearing in. And the more you recognize that which has no shape or form, the more you're going to begin to feel peace and bliss and joy. And as naturally happens, we'll be sat here paying attention to the formlessness, and mind will come and say something, or some object will pull our attention back. We can just literally shift our attention back. It's a different way of paying attention, isn't it? To that which has no form, to that which has no shape. I can know that it is here, that formlessness. I can't look at it directly with my senses, but I'm still paying attention to it in a certain way. And I'd really like you to see that you just effortlessly shifted your focus when I asked you to the first time. Effortlessly. We didn't have to do any breathing exercises. We didn't have to stand on our head. We didn't have to chant any mantras to... Oh, that's great, but it wasn't necessary to perceive the emptiness that is here. that all of these forms are appearing in. So most of us here begin to sabotage ourselves. I'd like to take it one step further, if you'd like to. Most of us come to the conclusion, when we look through our ego, that focusing on forms and thinking about things using our senses is bad, because it feels bad. You know, we feel stress, we feel a negative emotion, we suffer. The old way of our being. And that being aware of the emptiness is good, preferred, because it helps us to feel relaxed. Maybe you're feeling that peace already. And our ego decides, our ego is a choosing mechanism. It sees two options, form and formless, and it says formless is good and form is bad. I want to get rid of that one and keep this one. You can transcend your ego in a second, right now, if you just refuse to choose which one is better. Just step back from paying attention to form or formless. There's a reason it's called paying attention, because it costs you energetically to choose, to divide yourself. And there's a third option of just not choosing which way to perceive, not choosing form or formless. And naturally, when we do that, the formlessness presents itself effortlessly. Inside that formlessness, all of this is moving and changing. All these forms are coming and going. We can have a conversation. We can move around. We can interact with our world. And it's all just happening spontaneously. The formlessness will come to the forefront of our experience, and the forms will become more dreamlike and just kind of going on inside me, like you watch a movie. And if you refuse to choose, don't give in to the peer pressure of the mind, you know? Because our ego will be sure you have to choose the formlessness to keep a hold of it. You know, you found something beautiful, you've got to grab it now, that's it, don't let go. But it's like a slippery bar of soap. So sometimes you be aware of the forms, you might start to think about something or someone. Sometimes attention will drift back to the formlessness. If you refuse to prefer even formlessness, even silence, even stillness, even peace, naturally it will be constantly present. You might be experiencing that right now. If you just refuse to take a stand, sit on the fence and don't choose. Our mind is sure that there's two options, which way to proceed. Do I look through the mind and body, or do I notice the formlessness? Yes, you know. How do you refuse to choose? You just see the two options in front of you and you just, no, thank you. I know where that goes. If I choose formlessness, try to hold on to it, that beautiful empty space of our being, it will seem to disappear, and suddenly we'll have lots of forms going on up here. Lots of noise, static, chaos. If we choose the thinkingness, then the formlessness will seem to disappear. Why? Because that's the nature of duality, of two. You can only look at one side of the coin at one time, can't you? Heads or tails, form or formless. If you just step back from that, naturally your real being will come to the forefront of your experience effortlessly. It will just be there and present itself. Maybe you're feeling it right now, in which there is nothing to do, nowhere to get to spiritually, no more work to do upon ourselves. Nothing that needs to be achieved. It's not coming and going. It's not on a journey. It's not becoming anything. Inside that formless awareness that just naturally comes to the front, just that space of your being, nothing special, always been here. Perhaps we never noticed it. When we did notice it, we tried to grab it, which we all do. Your mind and body will just effortlessly get on and do what they need to do, all by themselves. And they'll probably do it a lot better than when we're trying to drive the car of our life. Maybe you've slipped back into mind while I'm talking. Maybe you've decided to choose without realizing. It's as simple as noticing and preferring one or the other. It seems to make sense to choose the formlessness because the mind and the thinkingness and all of that, we know what that's like. We don't want it anymore. It seems to make sense to try and choose the formlessness, to grasp a hold of that beautiful, perfect, intangible self that you are, because it's so peaceful and still, and we can rest there. But if you're still seeing those two as different, if you're still choosing, you'll keep experiencing one and then the other, and then one and then the other, back and forth, over and over, round and round. The highest place of all is the simplest, where we don't even prefer form or formless, silence or sound, stillness or movement, being or being someone. Or we don't even prefer self or ego. Even that choice, we just no thank you, because I know where it goes if I choose. Been down that road and it's a cul-de-sac. Simplest place of all is the highest. Just not choosing, not seeing, not preferring any difference. If you rest in that place, very, very quickly you'll see that all of these forms that are here, all of this coming and going and this manifestation, all of our egos striving, all of our thoughts, all of it, is just this formless space, dressed up to look like something or someone, dressed up to look like thoughts or emotions or body or a world or a universe. It will just reveal itself inside you. You will just know none of this is really here in the way that I think it is. And you won't have strived at all to come to that highest realization. There is only this formless awareness. Sometimes it looks like something. Sometimes it looks like nothing. That's the place where the sage lives. And it will be your state, naturally. Where you can no longer choose. And even if you wanted to, you wouldn't. Even if you could, you wouldn't. Even if you were offered those two options, you would decline. You no longer want to see two worlds. Very, very simple. All we did was we went from noticing the forms, looking through our senses, to looking at the empty space. And then we just refused to choose which was better. It didn't take any special kind of meditation. We didn't need to purify our karma first. We haven't had to stand on our head. It's a very natural state. Very natural. So I'd advise you to notice when you're choosing. Any time at all you feel bad from this point forward, physically, mentally, emotionally, you will be choosing, you will have chosen unconsciously. And you can just step back and go, I choose not to have any preference. A third option, this is the attentionless state, where you're not paying attention to anything in particular. You've lost that faculty somehow to pay attention. You're just here. All of this is happening inside you. Your body is happening inside you. Your thoughts are just appearing and disappearing. A desire, a preference arises. It just arises and it passes. It's just a little nudge to not go with that purest desire of all, which is to keep hold of that formless reality that's so nice that perhaps we're feeling right now. To not prefer even that beautiful silence. The very moment you don't grab for it, you don't even choose it, it will be your constant experience. Constant. You reach and grab for it, it will disappear. Try to hold on to it, it will disappear. Just to notice that our ego is always trying to choose one of the, it sees two options and it says which one is right. And you see that? It notices it does that constantly. It weighs two options and it says wanted and not wanted. And it grabs this one and tries to push that one. Because it thinks how to keep a hold of this piece is to grab hold of it. If you clearly understood what's been said tonight, then you should recognize that you are already beyond your body and mind. You already used some faculty outside of your body and mind to perceive empty space. The simplest of things, and yet perhaps never quite investigated fully. And if you followed through the exercise to the end, you should be changed now from where you were 20 minutes ago. Experience something maybe for the first time that's readily available, natural and simple. And it is the end point of all spiritual journeys, however you get there. It's that space in which all journeys happen. And it's not negating our body and mind. They're going to function much better without our interference. They are quite capable of looking after themselves. Your body will do all kinds of weird things. It will clean your house, it will tidy up, it will go to work for you, everything. Just to rest in this place, the attentionless place, where the wisdom of the sages will just be revealed inside you. Simply by not choosing, not preferring, even the most beautiful state of all, I'm not going to choose. Instantaneously, it will be here, always. It's always here. It's just we'll be able to consciously experience ourselves. While I thought I was a form, I was trying to get to the formlessness. And when I thought I was formlessness, I was trying to get rid of the forms. It doesn't work so well. Why? Because we're dividing that which is one into two. We're trying to rip our being in half and get rid of half of it. And then we wonder why we feel so bad. So practice this over and over again. Do this again and again, and show yourself just how simple it is to live in that natural place. Bust through these myths in your mind that it's difficult, that it takes years. We did it in about 10 minutes. And you'll be free forever. Never ever again able to suffer, ever. 10 minutes worth. Am I making it too simple? Is it too good to be true? Or could it have actually always been like this? We just thought it was way more difficult than it actually is. Or we got caught in trying to grab that beautiful place that is our real being. What if it is that simple? You can drift off now if you want to. You did very well. Saw some eyes closing in the middle, but mostly we did good. We'll start with this question that's been emailed in. It says, hello. Often you talk of only taking your direct experience for an answer. Can you explain more about what you mean by this, and how do I know when it is a direct experience answer? Often you talk of only taking your direct experience for an answer. Can you explain more about what you mean by this, and how do I know when it's a direct experience answer? That's a really good question, isn't it? Like, why is a direct experience of my real self going to, be the most important thing to experience? Why is that going to be the most valuable? Well, hopefully you've experienced tonight why we want the direct experience. Because it takes you beyond your mind, beyond your ego, immediately, proves to you. Because I could sit here all night and say 1,000 words, and it'd just be more stuff to add up here, wouldn't it? Just more stuff to think about. We're all really, really good at thinking, aren't we? We're addicted to thinking about ourselves and life and reality. And even on a spiritual pathway, we become addicted to thinking about awakening, So direct experience, actually experiencing what you really are right now in this moment, will change you on a fundamental level, because you will no longer be able to only believe it up here. It will have happened, even if the first time it's just for a moment, a short second. It will then be your truth, your experience, your awakening actually occurring, actually happening, rather than getting there, rather than working towards, rather than almost there-ness that the mind loves, never quite arriving. The direct experience of truth, what you actually are, will slow you in your tracks, or maybe even stop you if you really let it. Stop you traveling. Stop you on this endless journey to improve yourself, to be whatever you think you need to be, or whoever you think you need to be happy, to be peaceful. The direct experience of what you actually are will show you that you already are happy and peaceful, that nothing you can do or become or change into will make you any more complete than you already are. So a direct experience is not thinking about ourselves, not imagining about what we really are, not remembering a previous experience we had of truth. It's an actual experience right now where it's clear that I'm just here and I'm not a thing, and all these things are happening inside me. All these shapes are coming and going, forms, thoughts, emotions, experiences, all happening inside me. The direct experience is going to change you. You're going to be different, aren't you? It will no longer be something you read about in a book or listen to a teacher talk about. It will be something you're living more and more, consciously living as that awake, aware presence that is the source of the entire universe. And it becomes alive for you then, inside you. It becomes your truth. Why is that so valuable? Well, firstly, because it feels amazing. And secondly, because you're not able to suffer in that place at all. And thirdly, because the next time your mind says you're never going to get there, you'll be like, I just did. You know? You won't quite be able to believe the static anymore, you know? And it will say, well, you didn't keep it, you know? So you just look again, you experience it again and again and again and again and again and again. Until your mind says, and you go, you know what? Take a break, mate. Go have a cup of tea. You know, I'm just going to sit here in my peace. It'll come back every now and then. You're not worthy of it yet. You'll be like, I am it. There's a conviction and a power in a direct seeing where you can say with 100% of your being, I am that. And it sounds different when someone says that. It feels powerful when someone says that from that direct seeing. Not, I had this experience 20 years ago, or I think I am that. Well, I was that last week, but then it seemed to disappear, you know. And I seem to be that in Satsang, but not now outside of, you know. There's a power and a conviction that will instantaneously lift you out of the field of the mind. Because anything your mind has to say is about getting there, isn't it? What can it say when you've actually arrived? What could it say that you would listen to when you've actually arrived? When you're being that silence? When it's just here. And you're not even choosing it, it's just here. So a direct experience is deeper than a thought answer. And the answers we're talking about here are to the most important question of all. What really, really am I? Direct experience is deeper than thinking, deeper than even an experience of your real self that comes and goes. It's an actually being it. It's a really, really intelligent question. These questions are amazing. They've been coming in over email lately. Don't settle for anything less than a direct experience. And then when you've experienced it, don't settle for anything less than being it. Then when you're being it, be it all the time. Don't settle for anything less than that. Yeah. Would anybody like to share their experience of the exercise or ask a question?
It's one of those classic ones again. I experienced a week ago, and what you were talking about now happened. I was driving, and all of a sudden I just merged with everything. And I thought, here we go again, another nice, wonderful spiritual experience. It's going to fade again, which I didn't hold on to it. It faded very quickly.
You didn't hold on to it?
No, it faded very quickly, and then the ego came back in. But after that, it's really different. I could see how myself was all constructed, and I could see I was all, I could see the ego like next to me before.
Your thought self?
Yeah. I could see how it's very personal. It's every 2 minutes it tries to own everything. I could just see all the damn lot. It was so funny, I could just slap at it. So I thought, my God, it's so. I realised at that point, what you were talking about, there's nowhere to get to, there's nowhere to suit to. It's just incredible, make believe. And the ego thinks it's like looking for something. I've been down that road myself for 25 years. And then Grace
it's a cul-de-sac, right?
You talk about the experience. Grace just did it, and I realised when Grace did it, there's no way that you can get it without Grace. You've got to have that experience. Because I've been to loads of Satsang, as you know, and I see certain things and things clicking there. I get a realisation. But when I actually saw that, I just realised that it's incredible.
So what are you going to do now? That's the key.
That's what I'm working on. It's going to be. It's quite big that. The ego's still there. There's always saying things. It's still suffering and it's still so that. But I can see that it's okay. I don't mind doing that. It still hurts a lot, but it just does it. But I know it's make believe. I can't put it to words.
If you now refuse to choose even that beautiful revelation that you've seen, even when the natural state is there, if you can refuse to even prefer that, even though the mind says that's insanity to not choose it.
That natural state. It was gripping onto that, but I'm starting to realise now that I can let that go.
You are already in front of your ego. You don't have to choose.
Well, that's not really, because it's just a trap all the time. Every time you yourself to come back and bring again. But that's what just happens when you bring again. But I let that happen.
You're watching the dream. You must check these things out. Don't buy it so easily. Right? Just because ego starts talking again doesn't mean you have to get involved.
But now the ego feels even bigger than it was before. Because it's trying to use it. It's trying to hurt itself big time. I know that. It's awful to say that, but because I've had quite a big ego, excessive ego, and it's getting these revelations, and it's like stuff. It might survive things. Yes, not like
it's not surviving. It's really not surviving. It's hanging on by a thread.
Because now it's
critical. It's on. There's a flashing monitor going.
I'm not bothered
danger.
Now because I've seen it yourself. So I'm not so bothered now. If it does, I'm still frightened, but when ego's there, it still shakes a bit trembles.
You haven't seen the real self.
That's what I wanted to come to see you tonight about.
You haven't seen it. If there is still two, then you haven't seen it fully.
No, I'm not sure what I've seen. I think it was I think it could have been.
You had an experience of it, but it was still an experience. Can you see the difference?
It sort of came around. But after it, it's when I could see that now the ego was open together. So I thought there must have been something real about it because that's changed. So I thought it can't be totally.
It will. It's not wasted an experience because it will, as it comes, it wipes out some of what's left of your ability to suffer, or a large percentage of what's left of suffering. But if it seems to have gone or closed off or hidden again, then if you can remain this open, humble stance of, I'd like to live as that. What's it like to live as that?
But then separation comes back in because you're saying, what's it like to live like that?
That is not a question that's going to take you into separation.
Because you're saying, what's it like to live like that now? So we're back into duality again. Because that's all language can do. Because I can see when
the question
when it comes through the mind, that's just what happens. The mind just separates because that's its nature. What can it do?
What do you want from me then today?
I don't know. That's all.
So I'm trying to give you some advice, and you're talking over me right now. Would you like to listen to what I'm trying to help you with? Question is going to open you up, right? Yeah. A question is going to open you up. An awakened being is a living question mark, constantly. The more experience, the deeper their awakening has happened, the more sure they are that they've not seen anything yet or seen everything yet. The one thing an awakened being cannot do is assume that they've seen it all. And then they're constantly living in this openness, this peace, this clarity, right? If you assume anything at all about what you've had revealed to you, you'll still suffer. If you can ask this question with no expectation of how the answer will come. I've had this beautiful thing revealed to me. I'd just like to live like that, as that, right? Because when that's there, there is no ego or no choosing, or there isn't even two. There's no ability to distinguish anything form or formless. There's no duality. I'm not asking you to think about this. I'm asking you to ask a question and open up to all the answers that are trying to come to that question. That will take you out of duality. If you think about it, it will take you back in, as you said. But a question is like a can opener. It's going to open everything up. What am I really, right? You would only ask that question if you're willing to put aside the assumption that you've already seen it. If there's any two-ness at all, or duality, or any suffering left, you have not seen it fully. Best place to be is to just agree with yourself right now, I am never going to experience this fully, ever. Why? Because it's constantly changing its appearance. It's constantly revealing itself to you in a different, it being you. How could you ever see this fully? It's a mystery. It's beautiful. You just stop trying to get to the end of the answer, the final experience, the end of the road, and enjoy the unfolding of it. You won't be trying to get to an end point, and you'll be there. You'll arrive accidentally. Let's do it right now if you want to. Do you want to do it now?
You lose me now, you see. That's why I like to listen to, because it puts you back in your place again.
So when you're listening, you're peaceful. When you're assuming, you're suffering. Simple, simple thing.
No, it's not.
So ask that question, what really actually am I? Or what is it like to live from that place? And then just listen to what answers life is going to give you. And for the rest of your life, it will give you ever more beautiful answers. Right? And you will never get to the end of these answers, and it will surprise and delight you. Beautiful states, amazing things happening, insights, epiphanies, like living in Wonderland without the mad, crazy rabbit. But there's a certain openness and an awe about life. And life will continuously show you what it means to be you. There's a different way to live than where you were when you sat down in this chair, isn't it? Are you willing to listen? Life is trying to constantly give you answers. What is it like to be me when I have no idea what that is? Can you feel it now in your body? Can you feel the effect it has on your body?
That's what seems to happen. I get these revelations or things, and then I'm still like tensed up in my body going, and that's my seem to think, well, that's good enough. You see, I'm not sort of right expressing love, or I'm not right something more. That's when I think something's not right.
Because you closed up.
That's what I can't really tell. That's why I get a bit lost.
You close up, you have a big seeing, and then you close up, that's it, seeing it.
Is that what I do?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what.
We all do. It's not just you. I did.
And I seem to get even more contractions than afterwards as well. I seem to be.
Yeah, because you've experienced the indivisible one, which is ever unfolding, a beautiful, infinite mystery.
Right, yeah.
And then you're saying, I know what that is now.
That's a nice one. Yeah.
Mind will say that, but you don't. If you're asking if you're living from a question, the question, you cannot close up.
So usually when you say that, the question I didn't even know that.
Find out.
Yes, yeah, I'm still.
Right now. What if there is no right answer to that question? What really am I? What if there is an ever unfolding experiential answer to that question. Right now, in this moment, what am I? Well, I'm experiencing peace. I can see my body. There's thoughts. There might be negative emotion. There might be some. All of that is answer to that question, right? Very next moment, you'll be looking different, won't you? And you can never, ever again go, that's the right answer. When truth reveals itself, even for a moment, it feels like the right answer. It feels complete and whole. The very moment you don't grasp a hold of that, okay, what's the next answer? You're not rejecting those beautiful experiences, but you know the way to keep having them is to stay open. If you can come to a place in this moment where you never, ever again grasp a hold of anything, even truth, even trying to get there, it's exactly what I was saying in that exercise, not grasping the formlessness when it.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
So
don't do it.
Yeah. It's just so do that.
If you notice you've done it,
Yeah.
you can go back to the question, what really am I? What really am I? Really? When you were a child, you had this instinctively. What is today going to hold? And you went out and experienced it. You had no idea at all about how things should be or what was going to happen. You just lived in that moment, didn't you? So the question goes into your heart, and you never ever want to contract around one answer, one experience, one revelation. And then you'll get endless beautiful experiences and revelations.
That's what I'm doing all the time.
Just to notice when you've closed up around an answer, and we all do it, it's fine. But the moment you recognize, okay, I'm feeling, my body's tense, I'm feeling, I'm starting to suffer again. I must have closed. Your body will immediately tell you when you've closed.
Yeah, close it pretty quick. I've had that experience as well. Yeah. So I don't know why that is. That's just
it doesn't matter. It's gone. Right now, you have a choice. Yeah. And that's why awakened beings always look so damn relaxed, because they don't know how to close anymore.
That's what
they've practiced staying open, living from question.
I notice people like you seem to be open and relaxed, and I can't really tell. I'm seeing these revelations, and I'm like, that's not what you are.
The revelations will get bigger, more powerful. The experiences will get more transformative.
And that's why I sort of come to Satsang again, because I'm still getting a bit lost and a bit confused. It'd be nice to see these things, but then you web tricks and so you don't need to be Satsang and really seeing it all that kind of thing. But I've come to see it tonight, so it proves it's not.
Only because we're still oriented towards our awakening from an egoic place, which is there's one answer that I can find, and when I find it, that'll be it. And we have an experience of truth, and it feels complete, feels perfect. But wouldn't you like to constantly live like that? Wouldn't you like to endlessly experience ever deepening peace, love, and joy? All it will cost you is a question. Just a question. Just a question. Don't focus on why ego does that. You just leave it there. You just go, right, from this point forward, I'm going to live from this question. Still, now, always, the question is inside my heart. What really, really am I? Tonight, I look like this. Right? The thing you can guarantee is that the answer to those questions is going to get better. Epiphanies, revelations, insights, aha moments, wonderful feelings, amazing experiences out there, magic and miracles. Everything going the way you really want it to, even though you don't really care anyway, Your body just magically gets on and sorts everything out. While you're just like, wow. Your life is like, wow. Just because you committed to this question, and that there is no right answer. There's only the answer right now. And if that's a beautiful experience, that's great, but that's just another answer, isn't it?
So I mean, getting over the years of getting those revelations, and I think still getting all these contractions after once, like this is still getting there. And that's where it starts to think, what's all this coming about?
You have to experience a beautiful opening, and then this contraction back around. That's it. I found it now. So that it hurts so much. so much that you go, you know what, I'm just not doing that anymore.
Yeah, I can't look at what's doing nothing.
That right before I embraced this question, I was this heavenly experience, then this hellish thing, and then it went to this 5 minutes of heaven, 5 hours of hell, you know, and then 5 seconds, and then 5 months. You know what? It's just because we're still choosing from an ego, choosing one of the 2 options, heaven or hell. It doesn't make sense to our mind to go, I'm not choosing either of those. It's going, you choose that one, you found it, choose it quick. But when you can have that maturity to go, I know what happens when I go down that road. I know it. You don't have to understand anything I'm saying right now. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Just promise yourself, whenever you're ready to, whenever you can inside, I'm never ever going to stop at any particular answer to that beautiful question. What am I?
So I will be getting revelations.
More.
But in the future, so to try and catch it in that contraction too as it comes in.
As soon as you start to feel it, I've stopped. I've closed.
Right.
Yeah.
That's helping.
You're the absolute reality that just is and is unchanging. But also, you're going to have this unfoldingness that happens in front of you. Yeah.
So that's ultimately because I feel because it was really painful.
Yes. It will be mentally, physically, and sometimes emotionally, and sometimes physically. For me, it was financially very painful. When I closed around something, everything blew up.
Yeah, I've been a bit of that as well.
And it had to force this maturity in the beingness to go, I'm done chasing something and pushing, and I'm done with it. I know where it goes.
Yeah, because sometimes mentally I don't think that bad.
Yep. Because you've got so much more energy flowing through the body, the more awake you are. So the moment you close, you stop that very powerful life force, and you feel awful. But the moment you go, actually, let me open up again.
I don't have to do that.
Good. Just to ask the question. The question is more important than any answer.
So what I do then, I think, well, I'm going to get revelation at some point, and then it'll be all nice again. But no.
Just promise yourself, no matter what you experience from this point forward, you're just going to stay open.
Yeah.
The other option is you continue to suffer.
Even these revelations.
Yep. Right, it's hypnotic to go with ego. Ego says option A is the one we want. What's behind door number 1? Peace, bliss, and joy. Of course, you're going to choose that. Door number 2, fear, guilt, shame, pain in all kinds of forms. Okay, we obviously want door number 1, but the real self is not choosing. Doesn't see any difference between those 2 states. One only feels better and the other feels worse because you're pushing against that one and you're grabbing this one.
Yeah.
Fear isn't fear anyway. It's the beautiful emptiness. When you actually do this towards the fear, it'll become peace. Don't know how to do this. If you know how to do what I've said when you leave this chair, then you haven't heard it. If you walk away confused, really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
If that's that experience again, like I said, it just gives that. That's just part of
Forget about the answers. Yeah. Forget about finding truth and live as that question. Even right now, even though you're confused, you feel better, don't you?
Yeah, it's going to
Yeah. That's like 5 minutes of living from the question. You already feel better.
That's what matters. And these nice little flashes of light coming.
It's easy to look at an awakened being and go, they obviously know the answer to that question. Obviously. Right? Obviously they found some.
Because that's what I'm thinking.
I don't know anything.
So that's something I'm thinking. That's what you're seeing.
I don't know anything about anything. I've forgotten everything. Whatever answer appears in front of me, no matter how beautiful, it's like, okay, that's great, thanks. I'm not pushing it away, but I'm not grabbing a hold of anything. I can't do that anymore. I went through the same process you are, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I just cannot live like this anymore. It hurts so much to close up.
So you're getting these vibrations and contractions for a while.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. And it has to be because we're so hypnotized to keep doing this egoic mechanism. This one I want, this one I don't want. And we do it even at this level, form and formless. Self and ego. I don't want that, and I want this. Right? But the ego is appearing inside your great self. So if you're trying to push ego away, it's like trying to rip a piece of you out and throw it away. No wonder it hurts. Self is all inclusive. It allows every and any expression. And the moment you stop trying to control how it appears in the most beautiful way. You will never look back. You're like, wow. Right now you're feeling it.
I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Forget about the answers and just embrace the question. Embrace right now. Everyone can do this right now. The willingness to never get to the final answer. Never. It's an end of the road, this, isn't it? No more trying to get the right answer. Done it? Fine. I know what it is now. I know what the self is.
I don't know what I'm looking for today.
Very good.
Because
Stay like that. Stay like that. I'm absolutely not making fun of you. That is my highest teaching ever. Really.
I have a slight dissertation of the last few days as well.
So just forget that. Forget that. Don't go back into that. Don't go back into the story of your awakening. What's the question? Do you remember the question? You want me to remind you? It's probably mine's going. Don't listen, whatever you do. No. What really am I, actually? Everything is the answer. Everything you've ever experienced. Someone has a conversation at the back of the room, that's your answer. Car goes, beeps its horn out there, that's your answer. Beautiful feeling of peace, that's your answer. A massive epiphany, oh my God, that's an answer. A momentary fear, oh, that's an answer. Right? And you're just like, wow. And I'm just going to watch all these answers. See what happens to everything in your life when you live like that. You're not negating any particular answer, but you're not looking for this end experience.
I might be able to try to remember what you said now.
Say again?
I might try, what Matt's going to do now is try to remember what you just told me.
Yeah. This will confuse your mind. Your mind won't be able to do this.
Because
You can feel that right now, right? Mind's confused. It's got no idea. So I've been sat in this chair for 20 minutes and I've got no clue what she said. Right?
She's not getting nothing to get hold of.
But you have heard me tonight, which is a really good thing. Yeah.
That's quite noisy,
Listen to this. Watch this satsang again and again and again. Yeah. Just the question, just the question, just the question, just the question. My life is a continuous answer, an experience of the answer to that question. Always. And I'll never get to the end. And I am so happy because of it. And I've forgotten what it's like to feel bad. It's very simple, isn't it? You stop trying to get there, you arrive. Yeah. Which is where we have to keep coming back for a while because we make it complex. Say again?
You get complicated all the time. The topic's so simple.
Because I've been through the exact same process and got to the point where I've seen the highest state is the simplest. Everything, if I am everywhere, then everything I experience is going to be the answer to that question, what really am I? And it's wonderful because there's this whole great universe of experiences, answers that you can get. And the way that it unfolds is each one has to be better than the last because it's infinite expression. That's like, I've just said, here's Wonderland, off you go. Here's Cadbury World, off you go, right? The only ticket in is the question. Good, very good.
It's supposed to be like that.
Yeah, that's perfect. If you don't understand me, great. Yeah, I'm being absolutely true here.
Because Matt can't get hold of it.
Nope. See what happens now.
It's only like, it's a bit clearer.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Something inside relaxes. Your mind's, I don't get
Yeah.
it. But something inside is like,
That's
I don't
what
really
was-
care whether you get it or not now.
That's-
You know. Something,
yeah.
stops trying to find the right answer to that question. Make your life an endless answer to that.
Right.
See how you feel.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Good.
Anyone else like to ask? A share, yeah. Share's good. As long as I don't have to understand you.
Well, I sat here last week and I said I thought I was pottering along. So of course, smart time of day after, didn't I?
And then, yeah.
And then I was having a conversation with my mum and she brought something up. Something she thinks is a good thing to do. And I don't want that. And it brought up all sorts of negative emotions and feelings and
Big trigger. A lot of
picture, a lot of emotion. But also within all that, I could sort of was crying and I was talking to people about it. But there wasn't that big amount of fear and anxiety and I'm going to suffer with this. That wasn't there as much.
Good.
It was quite good, really. And then by the time sort of Saturday afternoon had gone, I could sort of address it as there are probably things I need to look at because it brought up all those things.
Mhm.
But I'd shelved it. It wasn't still taking up space in my head almost.
Yeah.
I shelved it as that's my mum's thoughts,
Yeah.
ideas, and I don't have to buy into that, and I don't have to.
You have a lot more power inside to just go, I don't have to automatically go into the same response and
Yeah,
do the same things. And
but that feeling of worthiness and things is something I need to now look at.
so what did it bring up? You don't have to tell me the details, but a sense of not being good enough for
That she knows better than I do.
family are kind of wonderful at doing that, aren't they, sometimes? Breaking that feeling inside, that but if you can recognize the real cause of the suffering is because it brings up inside you some ideal image of who I would like to be, and in that moment I'm very aware that I'm not that person. So even spiritually it can say, well, if I was a bit more awake than I am now, I wouldn't get upset by this or something. You even will play that way.
Yeah, I mean, I still didn't feel as bad as I could have done, but it did bring up all these feelings of she thinks I should live my life a different way.
Yeah.
So therefore I'm not putting it was that was the
Because do you mean because you can't fit into her ideas about you?
Yeah.
So is that true? Do you have to fit into anyone's ideas about you, especially your own?
No.
So why do we automatically go with that then? I'm going to make you teacher now. Why do we automatically go with that when it happens? Can you have a little sort of stab at that? So most of us, when we're offered, somebody has an idea about us, how we should be, it's like kind of, especially family, we tend to go, oh yeah, actually,
Yeah, because I don't know, maybe because it's my mum. Maybe I automatically think she should know better or know the best or whereas I'm quite happy and acceptance and of what I am.
Do you think that she really knows you, even your mum?
Oh,
Strange thing to ask, isn't it? But
no, I don't think she does.
do you think she could ever really know you? Or could she only ever know what she thinks about you, what she remembers about you, what she's experienced with you when you've been together? And
I think maybe it's her view of me.
you exist up here for her, don't
Yeah.
you? Yeah. You're only existing in her mind, at that, in the, how she sees you.
And maybe she thinks she's helping him.
So if you can also see that her suggestions about how you should live your life are based on what she thinks you are, whom she thinks you are, and not actually based on who you actually are. And that while she has no choice but to listen to her thoughts, she's got no other option. And it gets easier to kind of accept that people are giving these judgments or advice based on what they think is happening, which is quite often not at all what is actually going on. And also to recognize, your this unworthiness that comes up is based on this idea that I'm not where I'm supposed to be or who I'm supposed to be. But then again, would your thoughts even know how you actually are? Would your mind, the one that's saying you're not there yet, would that even know?
No.
Or can it only think about you? So you might be this wonderful person that you haven't actually noticed yet, And hopefully that's what we're coming to see in the clearer seeing. That thoughts can't actually experience reality, they can only think about, if I think about you, I'm never going to know you, ever. I'm only going to know my thoughts and experiences and memories about you. And all of the world is operating from that place, isn't it? All of humanity, except for a few beings that have come out of it, or are coming out of it. But there's a second option. Let me find out what you're actually like. And if you can be in that place when you encounter her, when she starts to say things, not to go into an image about what she's going to say this time. Is it going to be the same as it was last time? What am I going to do if she says, or just like, what is she actually like? Who is she? Like, I've never ever met my mum, weird as it is. Like, I might see you every day for the rest of my life and I can't decide that I know you. It's wonderful, isn't it? And then that has an effect on her. She'll be less and less inclined to offer less than helpful advice in those moments. Yeah, because you're much more comfy finding out who or what you are in the moment rather than thinking about yourself. And she'll find it very hard to think about you while you're in that place. It won't be a conscious thing that she recognizes probably, but she'll just be a lot easier to get along with. I don't mean anything negative against your mum, but we all, it's probably done out of love and a wish for you to be happy. But could she ever know if you're happy or unhappy, just from the mind?
No, because she only knows conversations with her all the time we spent today, so she doesn't know we know her.
Yeah.
She doesn't know that.
She only knows the bit of you she can see as well. So if that gets clearer, you realize everyone is talking from a virtual reality that's going on up here, which is totally disconnected from reality. If we're going to put it bluntly, it makes it a lot easier in those moments to not go into an unworthiness, to go, that's just how they've got to see the world at this point, because there's no other, we're not aware at that point there's another option to actually experience reality rather than think about it. And we're so used to believing the one thing that underpins all of our suffering is that our thoughts are telling us the truth. How I think it is actually how it is. And hopefully you're coming to see that's not at all.
No, and it's that I can only be a worthy person for that be approved for somebody else, and that's not true either.
Yeah. And there's less and less loyalty to go with that idea, I'm not there yet. And more loyalty towards what am I actually like when I look at myself clearly, not through the thoughts. You know, if I put on the I'm not worthy glasses, I'm going to keep experiencing that. You know, or I'm not who I'm supposed to be, or some. It doesn't mean you're going to stop working on yourself. You're obviously going to be open to ever more greater loving, compassion, you know, patience, kindness, all of that. But it's not coming from an incompleteness anymore. You know, where it just, I'm trying to fill a hole inside myself by being a really nice person. That type of thing that we all do. You know, you never fill that hole. It's empty. It's just continuously swallowing your happiness into it. You can recognize this thing happened and you didn't respond to it quite. You didn't suffer quite as much as you would have done.
No.
But there's also, okay, I can see there still was a tendency to buy those thoughts. What thoughts were they? The thoughts that were suggested in your head. No, it wasn't anything about what she said. It was what it made you feel and believe about yourself. That I have to match up to I have to be a certain way to make these people happy in my life. Or I can just be happy and they might be glad that I'm happy. Much simpler and easier, actually. Because you can never fit the shape of what anyone else wants you to be. And even if you could, they'd change what they want you to be the next moment, wouldn't they? And you'd end up like this chameleon that's running around trying to fit into, be this person in this relationship, and I'll be this one in that one. And you won't even clue who you are. You've lost yourself, which is what we're all doing. Lost yourself completely. I don't actually know what I like and what I don't like because I'm so busy trying to please everyone. You stop like, oh, just gonna be me. Yeah. Good stuff. Thank you for sharing that. That's really good. Good stuff tonight. Okay. Are we ready? Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.